From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you to this Monday's edition of For the People for this June the 26th, 2017. For some of you that might be tuning in, this is hour number one. Now, I know for some stations, you may not be carrying full 2 hours, but this is really monumental, at least for me. The program used to be a 3-hour show back in the day, and when Chuck, the founder of the program, when we relaunched the program 2 years ago, we were 2 hours. And when he got sick, we went down to 1 hour because we really, to be quite honest with you, we had no idea where the program was going to go because it was really, in essence, it was Chuck's show. And so Chuck told me to continue on with the broadcast, hoping that he would get better, and he just didn't. But we started acquiring radio stations, not buying them, but affiliates, that wanted to carry the broadcast. And so anyway, we built an audience, and it's been getting bigger, and we had an opportunity to go 2 hours on the network, and we're really grateful to be able to bring this broadcast in an expanded version, and we hope we do a good job for you. I would like to hear from you. Our website's forthepeopleshow.com. That's where you can find us. If you can't find us on a radio station locally, ask your local radio station, we like to say, or you can listen to the podcast version wherever you might be listening. Continue listening. All right, so this is something that you need to pay attention to. And heads up, if you voted, especially for Donald Trump, and even if you didn't vote for Donald Trump, if you're a Dem, you need to really hear this, because if you don't listen to what is going on, and if you have been incognito, you've been missing in action, you haven't been really following the news, well, I'm going to try to catch you up today on really what in the world is going on in politics today to make a little sense of this. Representative Adam Schiff, now he's one of the top-ranking Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, and Sunday he was on the Sunday talk shows, and he said that the Obama administration should have done more to counter Russia's meddling in the U.S. election. He says, I think that the administration needed to call out Russia earlier, needed to act to deter and punish Russia earlier, and that it was a very serious matter. Schiff of California said in a televised interview with CNN. Okay? The fake news. And by the way, this is a little update because I don't watch CNN. But there's a memo that's been circulated around CNN. Finally, they got the news a little bit late, don't you think, to stop the Russian news, the meddling, the Russian interference, the collusion charges, all these things that they charged Donald Trump with, to stop it. Because there's never been a here. There's never been anything that's proven that Donald Trump has done anything wrong or his associates. Period. End of story. Finally. This could be a turning point. I don't know. I'm not going to hold my breath, but possibly. It might be a turning point for CNN that has really, maybe CNN gets respectable. Maybe MSNBC follows suit. I don't know. The ratings are deplorable on a lot of these networks. They're just awful. Because if you're lying about these things and you're smearing these things, who's going to really trust you when you're actually tuning in to really get the news? And by the way, since the 90s, if I really wanted to get the news, I never really tuned in to CNN. They always had their spin on things. But listen up, folks. This is the Dems finally waking up, at least the ones that are a little, and they're out there, and they're coming, that have some logic going for them. They understand. Schiff added that the president, then Barack Obama, may have been worried that doing more against Russia would have looked like he was trying to tip the scales for Hillary Clinton, and did not want to give to the notion that the election was rigged against Donald Trump, according to The Hill. The Hill reported this. President Trump criticized Obama earlier Sunday for allegedly doing nothing about reports that Russia interfered with last year's presidential election. I just heard today, for the first time, that the former president, Obama, this is Trump, about Russia is long time before the election and did nothing about it. This is Trump on Fox and Friends Weekend. The CIA gave him information on Russia a long time before the election. And if he had that information, why didn't he do something about it? Now, folks, Obama knew, and it's been the narrative for over 6 months with the Dems pushing this whole Russia deal. Where if you still feel like Barack Hussein Obama is in the leadership role, the only leading voice for the DNC, well, I don't think he's a very good leader. Well, I personally didn't think he was a great leader when he was in the White House, but now, what do you think? I mean, it just further solidifies, and the reason now they're trying to distance themselves from this BS is because they realize that they're not going to have any credibility when it comes to 2020 unless they find new leadership. They change their message. Even Chuck Schumer over the weekend in New York is actually starting to sound a little bit logical. Now, I don't know if it's a talking point. I don't know if he prayed and got rid of a bunch of that baggage from all the lies that he tells and all the falsehoods. But even he is saying that the Democrats have to change their message. We got to have a strong, basically what he was talking about is strong economic message. We have to have something bigger. So bigger than Donald Trump bringing more jobs. Forget about all the things that Donald Trump's talking. It's got to be bigger than that. Because it matters. How do you think Donald Trump got in? They finally now, after all this time, it's better late than never, but it dawned on them, how did Trump get in? And it had a lot to do with economics. You figure. No wonder that Pat Choate, the economist, is working on a book for Democrats on the message for them. I thought that was a weird book because he's written about a lot of different things, but economics, but I think in a way he feels bad for the Dems. I mean, if you look back at the Democratic Party, and just going back to JFK, I mean, you got the breed of Democrats back then, he sounded like a Republican. I mean, the left is gone. Wow. Well, they've taken the party with them. And they've made it more of a social experiment, in my opinion. By the way, I watch a lot of the Sunday shows. I DVR them. And Lieutenant Michael Watts is a retired Green Beret commander. And he had a little to say about all of this stuff with Russia, et cetera, et cetera. And here is he.
Well, I think, at the end of the day, President Obama, his national security team, Susan Rice, just had a fundamentally flawed approach to Putin, to Russia, and frankly, in their foreign policy. They just did not understand that people in that part of the world, and people like Putin especially, when you take a passive, weak approach, they're going to push. And we saw that over the last 6 years. We saw it in Crimea. We saw it in Ukraine. We saw it in Syria and across the Middle East. So it doesn't surprise me that Putin thought that he could not only, attack the presidential election, but attack the very heart of our democracy and get away with it. And it turns out that when tough options were put on President Obama's desk, including cyber counterattack into Russian infrastructure, embarrassing information for President, that we could have released about Putin, he took kind of a modest, passive approach, and Putin did get away with it, and we are where we are today.
Yeah, but it would be a miracle if CNN actually started reporting just that, MSNBC. Or can you believe that if NBC Lester Holt actually got on and good evening, well, that was Tom Brokaw, but reported that as being the leading story? They're not going to do that. They're going to bury it because they're in bed with the Dems still. They don't want to confess. They don't want to admit, but Dems are. And so I just found it, to be honest with you, with my morning coffee, I found it a little refreshing for a change that he gets some Dems actually that are sobering up. And if they were sober all along, finally admitting, and I believe that they're really looking at their sights for 2020 and, yes, Georgia being the defining moment here, a moment of truth to realize, all of this stuff is backfiring on us. We're losing these special elections. We're losing big time. And Donald Trump is win, win, win. As much as they hate it, he's winning. He's getting it done. And he is going to get done. And thank God for that. I want America to be great. Now, for those of you that don't like that saying or it ruffles your feathers, don't let it. There's nothing wrong with wanting America to be great. There's a lot of things about America, to be quite honest, that are not so great. It might pain people. The truth hurts. The truth hurts. When you have a president that spent 8 years on legislation that utterly just backfires and hurt our country, and infrastructure falling apart, our military depleting, vets not being able to get the care they need, just things like that. But the ozone was much more important. The ozone levels were much more important. The polar ice caps and the cheetahs were so much more important than any other thing on the planet. That was his main concern. He even tried to make solar work with Solyndra. Don't forget that. Nobody talks about Solyndra. I have a memory. Well, they say people's memories are short. Remember Solyndra? They put our tax dollars in, my tax dollars. Yeah, your tax dollars. And the company went belly up. This weekend, I did a little shopping. There was something called the International Plaza near Tampa International Airport. I do the broadcast from Tampa, Florida. So, I'm just window shopping. I had to go to the jewelers to get a watch repaired. And Tesla, they have their showroom there. Now, I can't afford those cars. The concept, I think, is brilliant. They look awesome. But there's just not enough of those power stations around the country to make it work, unless you just drive it around town and you got 85,000 or 150,000 extra in your bank account that you want to get yourself one of those cars. Toyota makes a great hybrid car, and other companies that are definitely much more affordable if you're really trying to not trying to burn an extra hole in the ozone. And by the way, the hole that everybody was talking about in the 70s is actually starting to heal up. Actually, in the 90s, in a recent study with the Environmental Protection Agency, we made great strides and headways on trying to get rid of a lot of the smog, and that's why you can actually jog on the side of a highway and not gag to death. It's because you don't have all those carburetors and all that junk. Only when you get somebody that has one of those used cars, not used cars, classics, where they didn't have the modifications done. Then you kind of you're choking. I exercise outdoors, and I'm thankful for it. It's definitely a lot cleaner. But anyway, that was their importance there. And I'm not saying that we should never worry about the environment. Don't think that Keith Allen he's not concerned of it. I'm just saying that there should be a priority. Human life should take precedence. Not to say animals are not important, but human life should be in the forefront, especially veterans that have protected us, have paid